At number 74 on the Iconic 100 list is the 1998 Molten Metal Fusion Titanium. Some people call it the Fusion Gold or the Fusion Silver of Michael Jordan. And here to talk with us today about this card is Justin, Charger21 on Instagram. Justin, this is a card that kind of funny enough is near and dear to both of our hearts. Why don't you talk first about what you think about where it came in at on the Iconic 100 list, and then tell us why you own a version of this card and why you love it so much.
Okay, at number 74, I think, in my opinion, and I'm a big basketball guy, so I'm probably biased, but I think it's very low. I was surprised. I probably would have had it in the top 25, to be honest with you. And the main thing, obviously, it's Michael Jordan. It's playing years Michael Jordan, well, the last season of Jordan. And just the design is just unreal. It's one of the best looking cards or products I've seen ever. You know, this is 24 years ago. And I've owned Scottie Pippen and a few other guys, you know, of the Fusion, just the Fusion. I've never owned one of the Titaniums, but you know, I've got the Jordan Fusion, which I absolutely love. I would do anything probably for one of those golds. But it's just a great action shot as well of him doing the jump shot. You know, and just, yeah, again, the card is just like no other, really. It's a wonderful card. And when I had a Pippen copy, I liked the card, but I wasn't a big fan of the picture of Scotty they used on the card. Yeah. It's not really like a good action shot. And I remember seeing your Jordan and going to shows and seeing Jordans and thinking, you know, one day if I ever get the chance and I have, you know, enough cards and a bit of money or whatever, I've got to pick up a copy. So I think it was, actually it was early this year, I finally got myself a copy at the Dallas Card Show off a good friend of mine. So yeah, I just love the card. And, you know, you've got it, you've seen him. When you see him in person, you can look through, you can actually see through the card with all the little dots and that, and it's a picture of their face. Yeah, I just love that card and that set and the gold especially.
This is a case for me where so just to like let people see behind the curtain a little bit, I ranked this at number 74, which ironically is exactly where the card ended up on the list. I think it's the only card on the whole list that I ended up in the exact same place that the whole community put the card at. But what's funny about this card for me is you know, you never know exactly how iconic the cards are that you own are, and you never want to like really like think that yours card is, you know, way higher or whatever. And so for me, I tried to be a little bit sensitive with this one. I didn't want to put it, you know, too high on the list, but I think this is about right. This card, as you pointed out, not only is really important, is really incredible looking with both the image of Jordan, you know, rising up, taking that, you know, really iconic jump shot, that turnaround jump shot that we knew and loved him for, but also the pinhole design that, you know, is basically the subsequent year or the previous years had been the platinum portraits. You take those two elements, combine them with the holofoil, and you get just a really glorious card. The gold version has one thing that the silver version doesn't have, and that is that it's serial numbered with a stamp. Like they stamped straight through the card. It's like it's die cut out of the card. And so really cool. Mine is number 10 out of 40. But as Justin and I were planning which cards we should talk about on the Iconic 100 list, we both sort of recognize this is a card we both love, and the silver and the gold, both of them are just really stunning cards. They're probably, you know, this is an interesting thing to think about. It's probably the insert set out of the metal products. This and probably, you know, a couple of others, but maybe this one is the like most recognizable of all of the metal inserts. I'm not talking about parallels, which obviously PMG is the set. It's not even close, but I think this probably is the most recognizable insert set from the metal years. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I mean, I personally think so, because I do like the PMGs. I like the reds, the greens. You know, I mean, even the base cards from that set, the Metal Universe set, 97 were awesome. But these cards, I mean, I work in construction. I'm a carpenter, and I like to build and make things. And in terms of just craftsmanship. This card is just, seriously, whenever I show people that Jordan that I have, the silver, and when they hold it in hand in person, they just really just blown away. Because as you point out too, it's also got that little foil on there as well.
Yeah.
So it's got the foil too, so just an amazing card. And it's kind of like, vintage furniture and vintage guitars, which I'm big on vintage guitars, but they just don't make them like they used to. You hold a card like that and you just go, wow, like they could do this right now, but they don't. And
they don't. Yeah.
And that's what makes it special,
Last take for me on the actual view of the card that I think is important to sort of notice is I think you probably notice this when you look at the card just in a picture too, but on the front of the card, you're not going to be able to see the image super well. You have to look for a second, the real like profile of the player, in the dots. But if you turn the card around, there's something that they did different. It's hard to describe, but there's something about how there's sort of like, there's like darker spots around the dots.
Yeah.
So that if you look at the card from the back, you don't need to hold it up to the light as much to tell who the player is. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's as recognizable or as important as the PM. It's just not it's not in that world as the PMGs. But in terms of like insert cards, not parallels, but inserts from those early metal sets, I think this is I didn't know if it would make the list. I'm glad to see it come in at 74, but I think this is really like the Michael Jordan insert from the metal universe and from the molten metal type sets. And I think it's cool that, you've got the two different versions, but unlike some cards on this list, previously, like we've had other cards on the list that have had, parallels and all sorts of different parallels. This isn't a card that you can get. This isn't a card that you can get in the lower price range. You basically have two of the top 10 or 15 insert cards of Michael Jordan ever with the same image and some of the same variables on the card. And it's just a fantastic
I just wanted to point out with you, Adam. You might be able to confirm this with me. Is that the lowest numbered Jordan card as well from the 90s, like out of 40? Is there any?
It's the lowest. It's the lowest numbered insert card. As far as parallels go, you get the credentials now that's to 9.
Oh yeah.
That's right. And then there's a couple other I think it's Z-Force. There's a Super Rave that's to 25. That's a tough one because that one's been highly counterfeited, unfortunately.
Yes.
But yeah, it's the and I guess you also have the hardcourt, those wood cards that are numbered to 23, where he's got 100 different versions and then the cards to 1. I kind of don't count those because there's so many different cards in the set. So when it comes to Fleer inserts or the inserts that people generally think about, though, this is the rarest Jordan insert.
It's still super duper rare. I mean, trying to find one. I've seen yours. I've seen maybe a couple other copies. I'm sure there's some locked away, but I mean, pretty much impossible to find these days. And actually finding someone who wants to move it as well, so
we saw one move just not that long ago, but it was the first one to move in a long time. It set I don't know if it set a record, but it was definitely one of the highest priced Jordan inserts. And at the same time, there was a Rubies that sold for almost the exact same price.
Wow.
We're seeing, we're going to talk about this more as we go through the list, but we're seeing some of the really rare Jordan cards really just be elevated to a status that they're not, and this includes your card to 250. They're not obtainable anymore. You can't find the cards,
man. And that's what, that's why you got to get them while you can and just enjoy them while you can, because, trying to find them ain't easy. So,
even when they set a record breaking price, Justin, they don't come out of the woodwork. It's just like, oh, cool, now my card's worth more. Like nobody rushes to sell them. And so
those Jordan collectors, man, they're hardcore. They are, and I love it.
I do too, and I'm grateful for the ones that I have, but this is not going to be the last Jordan on the list. Anyways, card number 74 on the iconic 100, the 1998 Molten Metal Fusion Michael Jordan, silver out of 250, gold out of 40. Justin, you've been a fantastic guest to talk about this card. Tomorrow I'll be back with another guest for card number 73 on the iconic 100 list. And until then, happy collecting.